2 months ago, this committee held a hearing, and we listened. We listened very carefully to the EPA and the other stakeholders regarding this crucial fly ash legislation. At the hearing, the EPA indicated that they would not oppose the draft legislation. Since that time, we've held additional meetings and discussions with the EPA and the Senate and the other stakeholders to further strengthen the legislation. The bill before us today shows we've developed a viable solution with strong bipartisan support. Let me show you what we're talking about here today. Fly ash, this is fly ash. This is a byproduct of burning coal. Just like when you burn a log in a fireplace, you get an ash. You burn coal, you get an ash. 140 million tons of that is created annually. 40% of it's recycled. The other 60% is sent to landfills. And given that there is apparently a budding consensus about the beneficial reuse of the 40% portion that is recycled, the argument comes down now is how to handle and dispose of the remaining 60%, and importantly, how we protect the health and the safety for families living near these disposal sites. Thanks to the negotiations held with the states and the stakeholders, the bill before us today is an issue of fairness, a common sense solution. Recyclers will be able to continue their beneficial reuse of fly ash. It was promoted by the EPA for years to be able to continue that. And for the first time, there will be a national minimum standard for disposal as established by the EPA. States will have primacy, but the EPA can step in at any time, if necessary, to make sure that it's complying with their requirements. It protects 316,000 jobs. It prevents electricity costs from increasing, but more importantly is it provides consistency in the regulatory process. Not very often you get a group working together, recyclers, labor unions, utility industry, co-operators, and environmental officials all in favor of this same piece of legislation. Without this bill, ash will continue to be disposed of in the standards that were set forth in the 50s and the 60s. The stigma imposed by extremists within the environmental movement will continue. Common sense and fairness should prevail on this issue. Working in a bipartisan fashion, we've made progress. After 32 years of uncertainty, it's time for action. We've passed this bipartisan legislation during the 112th Congress. Our neighbors deserve the protection for their health and their environment. We can do this with this legislation. It's finally possible. I encourage all my colleagues on the committee to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Chair now recognizes gentleman from